My name is Carolyn Palmer. I'm the Communications and Events Manager at Youth Challenge, but today I'm putting on my Tech for Good Cleveland hat. So Tech for Good Cleveland is a, for lack of a better term, coalition of some local people who like tech and like nonprofits and want to come together. And so we host meetups. Right now it's webinar meetups pretty frequently about different tech topics. From marketing, communications, fundraising, all the way to board level software, all kinds of stuff. And Melanie is here today. So Melanie works for TechImpact, but she's also plans stuff with me with Tech for Good. And this is her technology planning workshop. So Melanie is fantastic. She's got 20 years of experience in nonprofit planning, which I don't understand how, because she must have started when she was 3. And she, just packs a really, really powerful punch when it comes to understanding technology and helping nonprofits embrace it in the best way possible for them. She is absolutely vital during this pandemic because we're all trying to embrace technology in new ways. And as you start to prepare for 2021 and whatever that brings technologically, pandemic-wise, whatever, this workshop is going to be really, really helpful for you to get that budget straight and to, make sure you're set up for success in whatever next year brings. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Melanie. I think we're going to hold questions to the end, but please do pop them in the chat and in the Q&A, and I'll moderate those after she's done with her presentation. So thanks everybody for being here.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. I wish we could do our regular meetup and see everyone in person. Tech for Good Cleveland is an all-volunteer group. We started it about 3 years ago. So for those of you who have joined us at events, we miss seeing your faces. But I will say that I am, for the presentation, I'm going to stop the video just so you can't see my face, so we can focus on the materials I've put together. So I'm going to do that now, and I will leave plenty of opportunity for question and answer at the end. Let's see, just want to make sure I'm doing this right. So again, Carolyn, thank you for the great introduction. I'm sorry, just getting acclimated to Zoom here. Again, a little bit about me at TechImpact. My role is to speak with nonprofits and help them make sense of everything technology, from their infrastructure to their data needs. Most of my career, 20 years, and yes, I was not 3 when I started. I'm definitely feeling my age. Was then at BVU, leading their overall direction of technology, systems, and processes. Also marketing, communication, and events. So like most of you, I have supported an organization and their technology needs with a host of other responsibilities. A little about TechImpact. We are a nonprofit ourselves, serving only nonprofits. We do this through tech services, education and training, and our workforce development programs. I will say, for some really great resources, check out our online technology learning center. We have some trainings available, like remote program delivery, which is incredibly important now. Choosing a donor management system, to specific technical trainings like how to use Teams to its fullest capabilities, creating dashboards, and so on. So today we're going to talk about technology planning, how to think, assess, act, and budget. It's a lot to cover. I will share my presentation after the workshop, so you can use some of the worksheets included to assist with your planning. Just remember, this is not specific to your organization. Your needs will vary, but the concepts covered today will help you get started. Technology planning is like any other plan you do for your organization. You want to tie technology back to your organizational goals and how technology aids or further those goals. Identify key metrics that you as an organization are trying to achieve. Reference your strategic plan when you set priorities. Examples include, do you want to grow a program or service, add a program, start serving new geographies, or I think at the forefront of most of our minds, do we want to improve how our employees are working remotely? It definitely, make sure technology is included in that strategic plan. I think most often you set the strategic plan, and technology is really not addressed when you're doing that. My advice is to start with a tech committee. Think of the tech committee as roots that work two ways. One, drawing up needs and ideas from the teams they represent, and then feeding their team with training and information on projects and available technology. Suggested committee members should include, obviously, the staff responsible for technology, chief executive, executive representation from each function, and someone from the support staff. Don't forget the support staff. They're on the front lines using I think the technology most. And then also make sure you're getting feedback from all staff. Consider sending a survey to capture what is working and what is not. Also consider if you need outside counsel. Consultants can be useful to provide expertise if you're not familiar with your options. Knowledge of what's worked for others. Project management to keep you moving forward. An outside perspective is key if you're likely to get weighed down in politics. I don't think we've ever experienced that. And an extra pair of hands if you're already got too much to do. Also, when you're looking for an outside consultant, think about your board. Is there someone who has the expertise and would like to be involved? When discussing technology, the conversation can easily stray. Stay focused. You don't need to cover everything in one meeting. Compare what you are doing to general best practices and document issues that would be useful to address. You need a leader. Typically, this will be the person responsible for your technology. Best advice is create agendas and stay on topic to be productive, and be cognizant of everyone's time. Take notes and capture ongoing feedback. When you're thinking about technology, think tactical versus strategic. So tactical, they would be questions like, do our systems work? Does staff know what you have? Is staff using your systems or creating shadow systems, which typically means a ton of Excel documents not in your system? Why aren't they using your systems? Have they been properly trained, or do you have bigger issues? Use the tech committee to bring these issues to light. They can help fuel adoption, have important outcomes and processes that only happen if folks use the system. Instead of just always saying, why isn't this entered, or who's not entering this, tie it back to the chief executive gets a briefing from the system report before meeting key funders, and we have a blank report that is a problem. Whether you are using any one asset is tactical, but having a process to use what you have is strategic. Also, when you think strategic, think 3 to 5 year plan. Are we choosing technology that will still exist and fit where we expect it to be in a few years? How can technology best fuel our mission? Strategic will most likely tie back to the strategic plan. Now we're going to talk about assessing your current technologies. This is where it might be helpful to engage a consultant to measure yourself against industry best practices. We're going to cover a lot of different areas, which can feel a little overwhelming. Remember, as we discuss each of these areas, you need to put as much emphasis on the oversight as well as the actual technology. Procedures should be well defined, and user training and support needs to be ongoing. Just because you make an improvement and you release it and you do that one training, please make sure that the support and the ongoing training is there. You can assess your technology in three major categories. Your infrastructure. This is the base for your organization's technology. This is your hardware, printers, phones, internet. These are key components of everyday work. Without a working computer, staff cannot do their work. Productivity and collaboration. This is the efficiency and effectiveness in which your staff can perform their day-to-day functions. This includes email, file sharing, and software. And then we're going to talk about data and strategic systems. How do you manage, track, report, and support your key business functions and stakeholder information? Now we're going to dive deeper into a little bit more on these categories and walk you through a couple areas to assess your technology. This is an actual photo I took of an organization server. If you have something that looks like this, ask yourself, is our equipment out of date? The first thing I would ask is, if I see a situation like this, I'm going to say, are we backing up our information? What do we do if our server fails? What is on that server? And then maybe think about, can we utilize cloud technologies? If you're not utilizing cloud for shared information, why not? Moving to the cloud means less equipment costs, less tech to maintain, more secure, it's more agile. I think if there's anything we've learned from the recent pandemic is that we need to be more agile and adopt cloud technologies. Also, I hear often that organizations are using outdated workstations. I think they actually say, oh, they're only 8 years old. I want you just not to look at the cost of purchasing the new hardware, but think about the productivity that is lost from outdated hardware. How much time is wasted trying to do day-to-day work and the cost of that staff's time? Also, if you're on a replacement cycle with your workstations on an annual basis, the cost is easier to absorb versus taking the entire expense in one year when all your hardware is failing. Try to, depending on your size of your organization, try to get on a 25% recycle, or, maybe doing a third, and a third replacement cycle. And most important, make sure to keep an accurate inventory of all your hardware, the warranty info, and where it's located. This will definitely help you regarding best practices for replacement cycles. So what you're going to ask yourself is, does your staff have what they need to do their job? Is it too slow? Does it fail often? PCs have gotten fast and don't age out for speed as quickly as in the past. Typical replacement is 3 to 5 years. If laptops, are truly ported around, they wear out a little bit quicker, so 3 to 4 years. My advice for purchasing laptops is, I cannot stress this enough, is to purchase business grade equipment so that you're getting the full life of it. Stay away from those great deals and sales at Costco, Walmart, and Best Buy. CDW, Dell, Lenovo have nonprofit discounts, and TechSoup has a resource for purchasing refurbished computers. You need to purchase business class equipment. Also, you can get some discounts through TechSoup and their buying power as well. Servers and network equipment, you should be looking at replacing every 4 to 5 years. If you're going to replace your server, maybe think about how you can maybe adopt some cloud technologies. Also, if you have a firewall and are not maintaining it, those need to be maintained and updates need to be done to keep you secure. So if you're not updating your firewall, please look into that. Printers, I would say every 4 to 5 years or till, you kind of tire of it or it's not working. And then we're gonna talk about phones and other stuff, but I would recommend, reviewing as contracts come up. So some little about ongoing evaluation you should be doing, especially with your internet and phones. Your internet, are there better options available, lower cost? Do we need more bandwidth? Is it slow? And is staff frustrated? When you evaluate your phone systems, think about how much it is costing you. Is it costing you more to keep your antiquated phone system running? Is it meeting current need and can it expand for future needs? I think we've seen quite a few nonprofits having to go remote lately, and their phone systems weren't able to accommodate the remote workers. So maybe they're looking at adopting the benefits of having a voice over IP system, which is going to increase their capabilities. It's agile, it's remote. There are also some incredible options now for Teams Voice and Google Voice. And I think, ask yourself, will this better serve our organization and can it streamline our costs? Um, you know, and then ask yourself, are you providing staff with cybersecurity training? Does your staff know how to identify a phishing attempt? I know it's getting harder and harder for me to identify them. 91, this is an amazing statistic, but 91% of successful data breaches started with the phishing attack. And all it takes is one staff to click on something they weren't supposed to. If you're not providing education for your staff about cybersecurity risk and phishing attempts, please look into tools like KnowBe4. For regular cybersecurity trainings. You can also try to fish your own staff. And then most importantly, if you're not using multi-factor authentication to access your email or file system, please implement it ASAP. For those who aren't familiar with multi-factor authentication, it's just another security step where you will have to either have an app downloaded on your cell phone to confirm that it is you trying to log into your email, or you receive a text message or something just with that verification code. So throughout the presentation, I'm going to have these helpful little guides to help you rate your current infrastructure. These topics include everything from oversight to PC replacement, internet policies, etc. So what you want to do is work with your tech committee to answer the following as to where you are effective, where you might need some work, and then identify if it's a priority issue. Priority issue is staff is not able to do their job unless we address this item. We'll talk a little bit more on what to do with the priority issues, but this is the first step to identify infrastructure issues to be addressed. So now we're going to talk a little bit about productivity and collaboration. If you remember, this was the second tier on the diagram I showed you. So what you want to do is ask yourself, does staff have the software they need to get their job done? Is it up to date? Are they able to work remotely? How is your team collaborating, especially in today's environment? Are you using a unified system that encompasses teamwork? Office 365 and Google Suite are free or extremely low cost to nonprofits. And then look at, are you truly using what each has to offer? Are you split between systems? Do you have protocols? Are staff saving files where they need to be saved, or are they going rogue and using systems based on preference or need? You also need to have documented protocols on systems used where information is stored on a regular basis. A lot of times I am talking to nonprofits. They have their email hosted in a web host where email is unreliable. Staff are saving their files in various platforms, like in their personal My Drive. They're using OneDrive. Just think about that as your organization's information, and it needs to belong somewhere. And some staff even resorted to using their personal computers and storing the files on their hard drive. So if you have a situation like that, look into one of these unified systems. And just think about when you're looking at these cloud solutions. This is, I think, one thing that I have to clarify quite a bit. In Office 365, OneDrive, you know, in all Microsoft does, sometimes their naming convention gets rough, but they actually named it correctly. OneDrive is for one, SharePoint is for share. So if your organization is using a OneDrive and that's where you're storing all of your information, definitely look into adopting SharePoint for your shared file structure. Same with Google. Google has individual drive as My Drive, and then they do have share, which is the shared drives. So make sure that your team that you have the right protocols and policies in place, and that your team is sharing stuff where it needs to be saved. Now you're going to rate your productivity and collaboration. Again, we will use the same methodology as in the spreadsheet before. You're going to ask yourself, is it effective? Does it need work, or is it a priority issue? The good news is once you're on a unified system, most of the priority items can be addressed with training. Um, when I say unified system too, there are also other file share options like box.org and Dropbox, which are fantastic for file sharing, but they also have strong integrations with Office 365 and Google. So, and again, security should always be at the top of mind. Again, I'm going to say multi-factor authentication to access your emails and files. Think about when a staff person leaves, can we remove organization information from their personal devices? Do we have all the organizations and files and work the individual did, or is it leaving with them on their personal laptop? I think the pandemic has forced nonprofits to be more resourceful and utilize more of these tools. I have seen huge improvements in Office 365 and Google Suite recently, especially with video and Teams and Google Hangouts. And if you go to both Office 365 and Google, they do have updated training videos on how to use all the components of the unified system. Also, for those not using cloud solutions, we have a checklist on TechImpact.org that gives a great overview of each cloud solution and its features. I'm also available if you ever need advice. So, just reach out to me. Now we're going to talk about your data and strategic systems. AKA your donor database, your QuickBooks, your MailChimp, your Salesforce, whatever you use, these systems are the backbone of the organization. These are how you manage, track, report, and support your key business functions and stakeholder information. So if you broke down these systems, they would typically look like this diagram. Your constituent management system holds things like your donors, event attendees, volunteers, members. Marketing holds your email, your social networks, your website. And there are management systems that hold your finances, facilities, information, HR. These are examples of data commonly stored by nonprofit organizations. You might have ERH systems for medical. You might have other things that are proprietary to your organization. Some of you might have other systems where you're government funded and you have to, use the solution provided by the government. But I think the first question is, when looking at your systems, are they spread out in various systems throughout the organization? Do you track most of these functions in Excel sheets or Word documents? Are you using multiple systems? Do you have antiquated database sitting in a file server that is preventing you from adopting cloud technologies? I think the great news is, if you look at upgrading your systems, there are incredible number of options, most with integrations and key functions built in. Also remember, I hear Salesforce thrown out there over and over. Salesforce is free to nonprofits. The nonprofit service pack up to 10 licenses is free, but you will need resources to make it work for your organization, whether it be an internal staff person or an outside consultant. Also, integrations can be costly. I kind of think of it as getting a free puppy. There's going to be ongoing maintenance. I talked to countless organizations where they have used Salesforce a little, no one has maintained it, they cannot pull reports, and now they're considering investing time and money into their current Salesforce instance, or, looking at abandoning it and then looking into a new solution that might fit their needs better. If you're interested in learning more about donor databases and options, we are having a webinar on October 8th. It's completely free on selecting a donor database. So we will review 12 of the most common donor databases that will go over the features, cost, integrations, and then throughout the month, you can choose to view live demos of all those systems. So if you are in the market for a new donor management system, or you just want to see what's out there compared to your system, definitely go and check out the webinar coming up on October 8th on TechImpact's website. Some integrations that are important to look for. Again, this is a very messy drawing, but hopefully you get the concept. You want to ask yourself, does your constituent data integrate with your marketing? Are you able to view an individual in your constituent database, call it your donor database, and see what marketing assets they have engaged with? Are they opening your email? What events have they attended? Have they volunteered with your organization? And, when they make an online donation, can you see that? Also, when someone makes an online donation, where is that donation getting recorded? Is it recorded in your finance system, and then is it visible in your constituent database? To make this happen, is your staff entering information into multiple systems? How much time, look at how much time they're spending completing this task. Are these tasks efficient and effective? Are you doing a lot of cross-checking to see what information is missing? Really evaluate where integrations can assist your team and cut down on, and improve these efficiencies and effectiveness. So now the fun part, evaluating your systems. So each organization is unique, but take inventory of each functional area and the systems that support them. What about the systems that capture your program and service delivery? Are you able to analyze your data? Is staff able to pull the reports they need? And of course, we'll say integrations again. Here is another helpful spreadsheet. Again, you're going to want to modify this spreadsheet based on your organization's need. The most important thing is to identify what is working well and what needs some work. This is where having more team input is valuable. You'll probably need to bring more program staff into the discussion and document their processes and systems use. Uh, remember the earlier slide where we discussed tactical versus strategic? This is definitely where strategy is going to come into play. You will only have important outcomes and processes that will only happen if folks use the systems. These systems will help you do your work more effectively, expand on your mission. So what you want to do is list out your current systems. What is it tracking? What does it need to do? How well is it working? Are we able to get the reports that we need? Would key integrations be useful? And how much of a priority is it? For the columns above, how well is it working? Are we able to pull reports, and does it integrate with other systems based on our needs? And rate the effectiveness from 0, which is not working, to 10, which is meeting your needs. Lower scores definitely mean that these items are a priority. So now that, excuse me, I'm going to take a sip of water. So now that you kind of rated your infrastructure, completed that worksheet, you completed the productivity and collaboration worksheet and your systems checklist, you have identified a list of your priority items. So what you want to do is start with these priority items first. And remember, you can't do everything at once. Lots of tech improvements would be nice to have, but they vary in impact, ease of implementation, disruption, and of course, expense. So what you want to do is prioritize at the base. Choose a base item from infrastructure, if you have one, and start with the critical, the highest priority. Consider if changes are dependent on one another. For example, if you are moving your email from your current web host into Office 365 and you also want to move your files, you're going to want to do the email first. The only place to start is with the first step or two. So what we want to do is talk through how to move from that potentially giant list of possible projects to the few that you want to focus on in the near term. You're definitely going to want to weigh benefit versus cost. It's not an exact science, it's just one lens to help you prioritize. But what degree will it increase your ability to serve your mission, reduce time or cost, and avoid catastrophe? First, how much will it cost? How complex is the project? And how much expertise will you need? So what you want to do is score your non-critical projects. So, pick a rough guess for scores. It's not going to be an exact science, but let's just talk through 2 examples. Get a better picture of event participation in main database. Today you look at it in 2 systems. So what you want to do is ask yourself, how much will it increase effectiveness? How much will it reduce time? Is it straightforward to implement? Most important, is it expensive and can you do it in-house? And then you want to total that score. Same with replace a frequently failing, heavily used, slow printer. And then what you want to do is have that list of projects and then total the scores. Create a master list of projects, be reasonable. Sometimes in the planning process, you take on more than what's achievable. We'll talk about budgeting soon. So you can see purchasing that old data printer made it to the list, along with a couple infrastructure projects like replacing 5 workstations and policy, and improving policies and procedure. Now it's time to discuss, who the project will impact, timeline, start date, what the project is dependent on. Do you need outside expertise, cost and staff time? This is going to help your committee identify projects you can do, or wait until time and budget is on hand to complete. All technology projects, include the following processes. Well, most of the following processes. So you've identified the goal, defined the need, you consider improving the process or equipment or whatever, and then you explore options and decide. Now you need to implement and configure, maybe migrate data if you are changing systems, define the usage, support, train users, and measure and check in. Now we are going to look at 2 projects. So example, buying a new printer. So it's, again, when you look at the planning and implementation, it's low resources to plan, and the entire process can take 2 to 4 weeks. But if you look at maybe changing, doing a software selection, maybe changing your donor database, as you can see, same process, but higher on the planning and implementation. The project is more complex, requiring much more time. You're looking at a project timeline of about 1 to 6 months. And then I would suggest accounting for more staff resources or looking for outside support to complete this project if you don't have the resources in-house. Whatever project you are working on, you just want to make sure that you publicize your project plan, include risks, timeline, and expected pain points. Help staff get ready to accept and adapt change. I know we all run so fast that this is sometimes the misstep, but you also want to hold teams accountable, but also stress the benefits to staff, so they push through the pain points. You want to define some measure and ongoing process to help you track how well things are working over time. But again, the tech committee and involving staff are key. Now that you kind of have your projects planned, it's down to the big old budget. So you want to make sure that you go into each project knowing your costs, whether that be interviewing consultants, talking to other organizations who have implemented some similar things, call possible vendors. It's, great to spread out costs also throughout the budget. You want to score tech costs maybe to program areas, not just the IT line item. This helps with the overhead ratio to be lower. So if marketing gets new software, tie those costs to marketing, which I still is still overhead, but or maybe tie it to a specific program or department. And then what you really, really want to do is work with your chief executive and consider cash flow and the right time to do more expensive projects. Cash flow is key. Funding possibilities. I don't have any magic wand to look for technology funding, but some advice is maybe engage your board, check with local banks or partners. Maybe a local business would donate good quality hardware or software. Taproot, Catch-A-Fire, and Volunteer Match all help connect nonprofits with volunteer tech. Larger businesses also have this expertise in-house. I think we're lucky as a community because we have BVU in our area. So talk to them about getting a pro bono, consultant, or maybe, just adding that tech expertise to your board. If you are going to use a volunteer, my advice is to make sure they can stick with you through the project. Make sure each party understands the scope and deliverable of the project. Know how you'll get longer term support, especially if they do anything custom. You know, you can also reach out to me and I can help provide some guidance. And then funding, maybe look at, do you have donors who might fund part or all of the project, a one-time capital grant from a funder, maybe even consider including IT in a program grant that is currently being funded. You know, can communicate how it will increase the capacity of that program or service. You know, on TechImpact, we've put together a sample budgeting worksheet. It covers most of the items you will need to build in your technology budget. You want to account for initial and ongoing costs and make sure to include hardware, software, consulting services, and staffing. And I know that was an incredible amount of information, and we kind of breezed through it rather quickly, but I also wanted to leave time for question and answer. So I think I'm gonna turn on my video again and then just see if anyone has any specific questions or comments or anything that I didn't cover that you want to know more about.
Thank you, Melanie. That was fabulous. While people are ruminating on some questions, I have a couple for you, if that's okay. I know I've heard from a number of folks that, you know, I, as the communications fundraising staff person, I'm like so ready to make changes. But it's when it comes to the top, when it's, you know, our executive committee or our C-level people are like, well, that's a lot of money, poo-poo it, and kind of poo-poo it. So where do we start that conversation that this, you know, this is not only, it might be a big expense up front, but you know, it's an investment in our future. You know, where do you suggest starting that conversation?
It's always kind of showing the return on investment and trying to communicate that if we invest this, this is where we can improve in the future. But also, I think making improvements or enhancing don't always cost you more money. I think that if you do your research and do it well, I think you could even streamline costs. You know, like I mentioned with the phone service, like you said, we have an antiquated phone system. Moving, like we have a voice over IP offering that pairs with PBX, it pairs with Teams, and if you use the nonprofit discounts, it's actually cheaper per individual, but then you're making this huge improvement. I think when you're talking fundraising and donor management systems, that I think as nonprofits, we think we have those same unique struggles or those same roadblocks, but everybody is having the same struggles that you're having. So if you really want to improve your individual fundraising, or you really want to look at a donor management system, we all do kind of fundraising and don't, you know, giving the same. Say 90% of nonprofits are using QuickBooks and they want that integration with their donor management system. And the developers who develop these systems know that, and they build in those key integrations to streamline everything. But good luck. You just really have to show the return on investment and what could be possible.
Thank you. That's great. Question from Paul. Hi, Melanie.
Hi.
Do you advise ways to dispose of equipment when they are cycling out of use? Good question.
Very good question. For recycling, there are some organizations who will come. I always recommend that you recycle your hardware. There are some local organizations, I can't think of it right now, that will come and they will, you know, wipe the hard drive and all that and recycle your equipment. You just do not want to throw it away. Your organization, there is information on that hard drive, and I can't think of the tool to remove
You just
information.
office space it, right? Just
Huh?
take it in the field, office space it, take it in
Oh
the
yeah, you
field and
put
boot
it
it
in the
up.
back room and you shut the door and just ignore it every time you go in there. But I will find out the resource. There is a local resource here that will take that equipment. They'll come pick it up, haul it away, and recycle it, and make sure that the information is wiped from it and that you're doing it in a secure way. I'll make a
Great. And
note of that right now.
Paul is chatting that PCs for people is a good option.
Yes, he is correct.
Awesome. I just, out of curiosity, I know you work with a lot of nonprofits. Here's one of my other questions. Since we all went home in March for what we thought would be a couple weeks, and here I still am, what's the biggest need that you've seen from local nonprofits as far as technology in this new distanced world? I know that's a loaded question.
No, it is. I think nonprofits were using mostly desktops, and I think the biggest need was actual hardware, laptops. I think um, desktops are going to be a thing of the past because we definitely want to invest in hardware. We've seen a shortage of being able to purchase laptops there for a while because there was such demand. We still have quite a few organizations that their staff is using their personal computers, and we definitely want to stop that practice. And it's not the most secure for the organization. I would say number two is that we weren't utilizing all that cloud solutions had to offer in terms of video and collaboration. And I've seen both Microsoft and Google react to that by improving it and also offering more education on those services. And I think we've seen a higher adoption and people really understanding the benefits of being in the cloud.
Definitely. I know my husband suddenly became a Zoom, or not a Zoom, a Teams live event producer because he's the one that could figure it out and they had an all employee meeting. So we're all adapting.
I know
Uh,
we had our live event yesterday and it was Teams Live, but look at Teams wants to, Microsoft's like, hey, Zoom is getting all this business. We want to be a player in the game. So you're going to see all of these, all of these improvements. And then us as nonprofits with the reduced pricing, we're picking up the benefits of all of these enhancements.
yes. A question from Lori. We are a small private foundation. Do you recommend using an RFP when looking for a new IT vendor slash management company? If so, can you recommend a template? Another good one.
It is good. I sometimes, because we do the same here, will receive an RFP and I'll give a quote. I would say before you put together that RFP, know what you're asking for. So I would get some advice before putting that RFP together. But yes, putting together an RFP, but you got to make sure there's details in there and you have a trusted partner you can bounce that off of. I do nonprofit consults every day. I have to leave here and do one at 11. But my thing is just to help steer nonprofits in the right way and say, this is how you can do it the most cost effective. I think every organization is unique, but the minute a nonprofit calls me and they're like, my IT vendor wants to add another server because we're running out of storage or we're replacing our server, I really try to talk them into eliminating those ongoing costs over time by purchasing hardware and really look at adopting cloud technologies. I will look for a sample RFP. I receive quite a few of them. Lori, I will look and send you some samples. I think if you look on also TechSoup is an incredible resource. And I know you can find the templates there. But I will try to find you a good one and share it with you.
Another great answer to another great question. Let's see. Lori has her hand raised. I'm going to let her talk because we've got a little bit of time.
Okay, Lori.
So Lori, I'm asking you to unmute. If you didn't mean to raise your hand, just unmute and say never mind.
My bad, sorry.
That's okay. We're all learning Zoom. I thought 3 months in, I was like an expert. And then here I am the other day on a board meeting talking muted. So, you know, it's all good. Do we have any other questions? Oh, wait, I think I see one. Oh, it was a thank you so much from Lori.
I think also, you know, we'll send out this template. I think it's a lot to absorb. So again, going back to what is your biggest priority and what will make the most impact. If your staff are not able to share files and collaborate and work, you know where you have to go first. You know, it goes back to the infrastructure. I don't think anybody is happy with their data systems. I have never heard anyone say, hey, everything's working great and we love it. I don't think I've ever heard that from anyone. So if that's you and you're not happy, or if you do love all your systems, congratulations.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever wanted to hug anybody from Blackbaud, but we're getting there.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I've ever talked to anyone regarding Salesforce and they said, hey, this is the best thing ever, you
Yeah.
know? So it's about doing that upfront homework and staff adoption. I don't think anyone says our staff enters everything they have to and it's all entered the correct way. But you at least want to get 80% there and 80% of your staff entering the right information.
That's great. Well, I think that's it for questions. I know, so we recorded this webinar from a housekeeping standpoint. We'll get it up on YouTube to share with folks who want to go back and learn, and we'll also make sure those spreadsheets get shared as well. Or not those spreadsheets, this entire presentation gets shared as well, because it's got lots of good information, and I can't write fast enough to keep all the nuggets of wisdom.
And I think for planning purposes, for those 12 on, you know, we're looking at planning future events. Hopefully those will be live soon. But if you have any topics you want us to cover or any ideas, you know, we go marketing and technology. So shoot us some ideas and we'll look at planning the next meetup.
Yes, and if you are not in our Tech for Good Cleveland Facebook group, please join us. You know, it's a great, I think, a network of 80 plus people already that, you know a lot about tech. I try to post a tech tip every week, usually from Tech for Good's website. They've got a great newsletter that comes out every Monday. So yeah, please
And I
join
think
us.
we also forgot to mention that Tech for Good is part of the N10
Oh,
network.
yes.
Which is also a great resource for nonprofits. So I would say N10, TechImpact, and TechSoup are the three main go-tos for nonprofit tech.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Well, I think we are all done. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Melanie. You're fabulous.
Thanks. All right.
All right,
Bye-bye.
everybody, have a great one.